there's a beautiful writing from the Circle of Atonement, which is one of the big Course in Miracles groups in the States. They started to realize that the way they were understanding the Course was totally different to what Keneth Wapnick has understood it. And it's all about whether we take the Course in Miracles literally or metaphorically. So I'll give you an example. And it's about the Holy Spirit. And they've done this very maturely, this comparison between the two ways of looking at the Course. And they say at the very end, we're not saying that our way is the right way, but it's important to see that there are very different ways of understanding the Course, and it's up to you to choose which way you see it. So the Circle of Atonement say about the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit is an extension of God's being and is therefore a created being, like the Christ, something that God created deliberately when the separation occurred. And Ken says, we can better understand the Holy Spirit to be the memory of God's perfect love that came with the Son when he fell asleep. In this sense, then, the Holy Spirit is not really a person who was specifically and intentionally created by God. It's just a memory that we brought in. The Circle go on to say, the Holy Spirit, being a creation of God, is real and eternal. And Ken says, the Holy Spirit is an illusion, a symbol that was not created by God, but is merely a projected, split-off part of ourself. In other words, it's in our mind. The Circle go on. The Holy Spirit is active. He acts in our minds, teaching, guiding, and healing our minds. And he acts in the world, guiding our decisions, supplying us with needed things, designing our special function, and planning the events of our lives. Ken says, the Holy Spirit, being only an illusion, cannot act, either in our minds or in the world. The Holy Spirit does not really do anything. His apparent actions are really the product of our own minds. What we ask for, do we receive, like thought is creative. But not from God. It is the power of our minds, not our brains, but our minds, that gives us what our minds request. The Circle go on to say, asking the Holy Spirit for guidance is a major emphasis in the Course. And it seems to be, if you read sentences, it says, ask the Holy Spirit for everything. As we study the text, we are taught the importance of him guiding our lives. As we practice the workbook, we are trained to quieten our minds and hear his voice, which is true. Once we have gained this ability, the manual then urges us to let him make all the decisions for our earthly functions as teachers of God. As we ascend the ladder of development, he increasingly becomes the one in charge of our minds and our lives. So we hand over our lives to God, to the Holy Spirit. Ken says, asking the Holy Spirit for specific guidance is extremely helpful and necessary at the bottom rungs of the ladder, where students need to believe in the fairy tale of God helping you in the world. As you move up the ladder, however, this asking becomes counterproductive, becomes an ego defense against the experience of God's love. As we ascend, we increasingly recognize that the Holy Spirit is only a symbol and that God is not present in the dream. I leave it up to you which way you want to look at it, but I go with Ken.